my world. Won't you come on in? Miracles, I guess, still happen now and then. Step into my heart and leave your...
Hello and welcome to my world, Holistically Speaking. Today's guest is Jeremy Williams, novice Zen priest, and Reverend Song Do.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Oh, glad to have you. And Holistically Speaking is proudly brought to you by Talkwad Network. Please check out other shows of the Talkwad Network at www.talkwad.com. And in a little bit, we're going to open up the lines for callers. If anybody might have a question for you. Right now, I was reading a little bit about your bio, and it said that you had an interest in mysticism. And
yes.
Could you tell us a little bit about that?
At a very young age, I had some actually very mystical experiences even before I could have been inundated with a lot of different religion. I grew up in the church, Presbyterian church, but even before I really went a lot, I had a moment when I was probably, I'm guessing 4 or 5 years old, where I had for the lack of better terms, I kind of had a vision of a spiritual being. I only knew it maybe as Jesus at the time because that was the only background I had as a child. But I've always had a spiritual inclination, like I said, even from the time I can remember, which later developed, obviously. I grew up, like I said, in the church. And then later, when I was probably in early high school, my mother was actually the one who introduced me to Eastern thought, meditation, even New Christian thought, and I just gobbled it up, and I just went from one stone to the next. I got really interested in all the world's religions and studied them in depth, and long story short, ended up really liking Taoism and Buddhism, and eventually got focused into Zen Buddhism.
Now, from my own personal experience with mysticism, it seems like, separate religions have their own, and they will accept their own. However, mysticism, maybe, from other different religions, they're like, whoa. Has that been your experience?
I mean, somewhat. The interesting thing I'll say about Zen is actually, believe it or not, we're not as interested in mysticism. We're interested in being right here, right now, 100%. That doesn't mean you don't have mystical experiences, but the goal isn't the mystical experience. You may have a mystical experience. I've had mystical experiences. But if you become attached to that expectation, that's what sets you up for disappointment. Because if you feel like you have to have a certain mystical experience and you never have it, you may be really sad. Or if you have a mystical experience but it doesn't last as long as you think it should, then you can also be disappointed. So what Zen does is it actually brings us back into the moment 100%. And that's the mystical experience, is being 100% right here, right now, without any filters. When you talk about other religions, sure, people know, I don't run around trying to convert people because that's not what we're about. But yes, people know I teach a Zen Buddhist class, and often I have people of different faiths asking me things about miracles and this, that, and the other. And for the most part, we're very open-minded. And of course, some people look at you and say, well, that's kind of interesting. Most people are open-minded, but probably the question I get the most is, do Buddhists believe in God? Or do you have to be atheist to be a Buddhist? And so that's probably the question I get the most, and I'll answer that right now. You can either believe in God or not. In Buddhism, God is kind of besides the point. The focus in Buddhism or Zen is, once again, being 100% right here, right now, without all the filters. And the Buddha himself said, I teach suffering and the end of suffering only. So You can believe in God, and you can practice Zen, and you can get a lot out of it. You can be an atheist and practice Zen and get a lot out of it. And I always tell everyone, you can be Jewish, Muslim, Christian, Buddhist, atheist. You're welcome in our class, and you can always get something from mindfulness and Zen meditation.
Yeah, I've heard that myself, that from some people, that they say Buddhism is more a lifestyle than a religion.
Yeah, there's that. You hear that sometimes, that debate online and on Facebook and everything. And to me, there's obviously both components. Some people say, oh, no, it's just completely nothing but a philosophy. It has nothing to do with a religion. But even from my own personal experience, traveling throughout Asia, especially throughout Korea, there's definitely people that pray to the Buddha like a god and ask the same things and have a very religious side. You have the temples, you have the art, you have the clothing, the liturgy, the forms, the candles, the incense. So, there's definitely a religious side. But I think most people would say that the core of the teachings, though, is truly more a lifestyle, like you were just saying, a practice. That's the focus.
And I know you're married because I've met your wife, and you have 2 children?
Yes, 2 lovely kids, yep.
And now how does that play into your marriage, or I'm saying your beliefs? Does she follow the same, or?
Well, wow, you opened up a whole can of worms there, which is interesting because it's funny, learning how to be in the present moment. I thought you were going to ask another question, but I'll answer that first. My wife she's from Korea, but she was actually raised Catholic. And she even thought at a young age she would be a nun. And, and then later, I won't get too much into, obviously her own life, but she basically fell away from the church and didn't really have a lot of interest in religion. And when she first met me, I had already been studying Buddhism and practicing meditation. And so she was open-minded about it, but she really wasn't into it. In fact, she almost was a little turned off by it, to tell you the truth. And, but I never forced her. I never said, no, you got to be Buddhist. You got to sit here and, meditate with me. And slowly over time, she just became more and more interested. And because of her Korean background, even if you're born, or raised Catholic in Korea, you know a lot about Buddhism just because it's so steeped in that culture. But no, now she actively, we helped start the group that we teach every week. She's there every week with me, and she helps out a lot, and we're just as much on the same path now. But it's funny because a lot of people, when they meet me and they know my wife is from Korea, they're like, oh, did you convert to Buddhism when you met your wife? And I'm like, the funny thing is actually the opposite. It's like, she was the Catholic one and I was the Buddhist. And of course now we're both in the same practice, but that's interesting.
And what was the question you thought I was going to ask?
Well, what's interesting is that traditionally most monastics, most people that are priests, wear the robes, traditionally speaking, are celibate. Similar to like Catholic priest. And most of your even Korean monks will be celibate, or nuns. They also have nuns. There's females. But as Buddhism spread, I know the one country for sure that it changed in, and there's a lot of reasons I don't want to have time to get into, but the Japanese started, some of the priests were allowed to be married. There was political reasons and this, that, and the other, but long story short, they could have both. And when the Japanese occupied Korea before World War II, they also made it where the monks could also marry. Now, some would say they forced them, some would say they didn't. They were already married. There's a lot of political debate. I'm not going to get into that, but
no. I'd imagine same as we've found here in America that we've found that it's a good thing for people to be married.
Well, I have 2 things to say to that, and I've heard the debates. Trust me, I obviously totally respect anyone who chooses a celibate life. I think it's a wonderful thing. I don't think it should be forced on you. I also don't think that being married and having children should preclude you from truly giving your heart to practice and leading people. And I can honestly say, some people I've heard the argument is, well, only the best teachers I've ever met, they've all been celibate because they don't have to take care of a family and kids. And I'm like, the very reason my practice was put through the crucible and come out hopefully with the goal that I've had is because I was married and because I had kids. This isn't just sitting in some temple, and I know temple life has its own problems. I'm not discounting that, but people are people. But being married and having kids and living in the real world is where you really put the rubber to the road and you can really practice. Put your practice in practice instead of in some ideal cocoon, if that makes sense.
Yes, I've understand that, and, myself, so, there's other religions out there where people go into seclusion.
Yeah.
But, I'm actually, going to be a minister myself. I'm actually going to be studying that,
That's awesome.
spiritualist minister.
Congrats.
But what I see though, and what sounds to me, what I hear, what you're getting at is that, if you're trying to, lead someone or be an example, you have to know where your people are coming from.
Yeah.
And most of the people that come to you, they have their own wives or relationships and stuff like that. And, how would you know how to count? Yes, you could possibly get some from universe or spirit or God, but I'm saying I think it's better if you experience it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in Buddhism it's definitely, and Zen especially, it's all about experience. Philosophy is interesting, metaphysics is interesting, but experience in real world is really where we want to get. And in our order, I belong to an order called the Five Mountain Zen Order. It's a national order with local groups like the one that I've founded and helped lead. We have both monastics that are the traditional type that are celibate, and that's their only life. And then there's a householder side like myself, that we also get ordained, we also study, and we wear the robes, but I also have a job. I work full time. But then when I'm not at my job, of course, even when I'm at my job, I'm constantly practicing to myself, of course. I'm not espousing it to everyone and trying to convert anyone, of course, but that's my life. My passion is my practice. My profession I really like, but that's what kind of brings home the bacon for my family and my kids. But then my free time, I study sutras. I go to a university called Buddha Dharma University, and I'm on a track to eventually get my doctorate. And it's a Buddhist seminary. So there's an academic side and there's an experience practice side.
And I wanted to quickly, touch back on the mysticism, and you were talking about, if you're constantly looking for miracles, if you're constantly looking for something amazing, like somebody parting the Red Sea, you miss the miracles that are already in front of you.
Oh, I totally agree.
I'm saying the simple miracles, you experiencing a family now and times with your wife, and that is the true miracle.
Oh, definitely, without a doubt. A true miracle to me is forgiving someone who's completely wronged you. That's the real miracle. When you can let go the anger and the hatred you have for someone that's wronged you, and you can, it's not even necessarily forgiving them, but if you can let that go, and have peace and have conversation with people, or even, presidents or kings or whoever talking to each other when they're at war. Those are true miracles. Thich Nhat Hanh said that the true miracle of Jesus wasn't walking on water, it was walking on this very earth. And there's something about that. That's been one of my favorite quotes. Just walking on this earth, if we're very present-minded, can be, as Einstein, I think, even said something along those lines, that everything can either be a miracle or not. And if you're 100% present at all times, you can be in a miracle at all moments. It may not be, the flaming bush, and I'm not saying that stuff doesn't happen. I've even had some interesting things happen earlier in my life, but once again, in Zen, we don't focus on it. And I don't even think Jesus or Buddha or many of the masters, they supposedly perform miracles, but especially if someone asked them to, they usually didn't.
Yeah, I can see that. In my own life, letting go of anger, as 2012 has been, I call that the year of recovery for me.
That's wonderful.
And the letting go of anger, I found I had a lot of it.
Oh yeah.
And part of it was from early childhood. You know, I had two separate issues, and I had to separate them. But I let them combined, and that just, I had to break everything down into its, simplicity. And one of them was I went to a Christian school after my father passed. It was. And, immediately after losing someone really significant to me, they started in with the Jesus, the Satan, and, some people go to hell and your father might be there, and I'm like, at 5 years old, I'm thinking maybe this wasn't the message.
That's not the most skillful message, I must admit. Yeah, especially at 5 years old.
Yeah, but it was. I mean, it was. I kept. It was like something wasn't right, and so I had to keep searching for my answers. And I'm about 40 years old now, so.
Well, we're brothers. I'm about the same age, so it's all good.
And have you found your answers, or have you figured out women yet?
Oh wow! Let's see. Could my wife answer that one? She would definitely say no. Have I found my answers? I have found a very lasting peace. Is it all the time? Do I ever get upset, angry? Of course I do. I'm a human being. But I can't imagine my life or my marriage or being a parent without the practice I have. I mean, it's hard enough with a practice. And luckily, once again, my wife practices with me, which makes it even better. But, without a doubt, I've found peace. And I tell people in my class on the weekends, I certainly wouldn't be there week after week, wasting my time if I didn't think this practice had changed my life in a very positive and beneficial way. If I thought it was just a bunch of philosophy, I'd go teach just a Buddhism history class or something. But because I think it works, I obviously give my energy and a lot of my life to it.
Now, before we get to meditation, we're going to have a meditation shortly. I wanted to invite callers. If our producer can put the phone number on the screen. What's been the most amazing thing to you out of what you've learned and what you've studied and taking this path?
The profound and the simple. I mean, the true masters to me make the profound simple, and being right here, right now. I'm at a stage in my life where I'm really not looking for, per se, the mystical and the magic or miracles. I'm not saying they don't exist. And if it happens, I'll take it in stride when it happens. But I'm not looking for that anymore. I'm also at a stage in my life, even though I study for school and because it's part of my ordination and my seminary, where that I feel like I need to read another book. I've read so many books at one point in my life I could almost vomit. That's why I'm so attracted to Buddhism in general, but specifically Zen, because it's so much more focused on practice. It doesn't throw the knowledge out. There is that side, studying of the sutras and the Buddha's teachings, and really you can study anything. It's not like you can't study other religions and their books of wisdom. But the difference to me is I got tired of being in my head and I wanted to put it in real world practice. And that's one of the biggest differences I've seen, in my opinion, in Buddhism in general and especially Zen.
Yeah, definitely, found that myself, doing things like, Course in Miracles and Aramaic forgiveness. As I've went to some of your mother's meetings.
Yeah. And that's also another wonderful path, A Course in Miracles. I studied that for years. I actually helped facilitate it some. I think it's a very valid path, especially it comes from a lot of the language that Christianity uses, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, forgiveness, but obviously a lot more open-minded and can be very healing for a lot of people. Zen has a lot of sutras and knowledge as well, but there's probably a lot more focus on silence.
Yes. Silence is a good thing.
Yes. There's silence in the Course in Miracles too. I got, in case my mom's watching, they have meditation as well, but And that's why it's a different path. Some people love, going to their Catholic church, and they love all the stuff that's surrounded that. And there's some people that you're naturally attracted to different religions and path. The one thing I will say for sure about Buddhism and Zen is that by no means do we think we have the only way or the only path. We're not out to convert people. If people have an interest, we'd love to, like I said, share that practice with them.
Okay, is you telling me we're having a call? Okay, is the number on the screen for the? Okay, thank you. Well, what I'd like to do is actually go to a short meditation real quick, and if our producer is going to put on a video. Is that ready? Okay, we got 15 seconds.
All right. Everyone can get prepared for the
So if you're ready to do a meditation at home, we're gonna have a short one. And any introduction to the meditation that you're gonna?
Well, I'd imagine most people are probably watching this sitting in a chair, obviously looking at their computer. If you're on the floor and you can sit on a cushion, great, but it's not about that. If you're in a chair, put both your feet flat on the floor, and you just kind of slightly have your back up off the back of the chair so that your back is in an upright posture. And I can continue in just a minute because I think we'll have to. We're going to cut over.
Okay.
Welcome. We'll get settled in on a short meditation, and we'll break it up into two parts. The first part, I'll just simply guide you through very basic meditation, and then the last few minutes will be completely silent as you practice what I kind of explain. The first thing we'll do is we'll just set the tone with our bell. And I'd just like everybody to get relaxed. And if you can, just gaze out about maybe 2 or 3 feet in front of you. If you're sitting in front of the computer, you may want to back up away from the computer a little bit and just have your gaze slightly down. And you don't want to hard focus on anything, just kind of a loose focus with your eyes kind of half open. And you don't have to have your hands in any particular position, just somewhere comfortable. You can rest them on your knees, or you can lay them in your lap. And I just want you to just try to take about 3 big deep breaths in and out. Just try to let go of all the stress and worry of the day. And briefly just scan your body from the top of your head down into your jaw and your mouth. Pay attention to all your muscles. If there's any tension, just let it go as you're focusing on the breathing. Down through your spine. You want to keep your spine erect, almost like someone's pulling a string from the base of your spine out through the crown of your head. And your mouth is just slightly loosely hanging open just a little bit with the tongue just behind your teeth. Relax all your muscles. And then I just want you to focus on the breathing. Feel the air coming in through your nostrils, going down into your lungs. Feel the warmth as it comes out. And as you're breathing in, you can say, breathing in, I know that I am breathing in. Breathing out, I know that I am breathing out. Breathing in and out. In and out. And as you're breathing in and out and focusing on your breath, if a thought arises, simply label it thought. It's not about forcing the thoughts to stop. It's just simply noticing them. And as you notice them, label it thinking and come right back to your breathing, in and out. In, out. You may have to do that 10 times, 100 times. But it's not about beating yourself up or doing it right or wrong. It's simply about noticing it, being aware of it, your thoughts, and coming back to the breathing. In, out. Now that you've had some basic instruction, breathing in and breathing out, and labeling any thoughts that come up and coming back to your breathing, we're going to put that into practice. And we'll go into a silent meditation for the last 4 or 5 minutes. And when we're done, you'll hear a bell, and you can come back from your meditation.
So when can I cash the check then?
Thank you for meditating with me, and I hope you learned at least some basic meditation. And I challenge everyone to try this practice at home, and if you have any local groups, that helps as well.
Okay, and welcome back. Hope you enjoyed the meditation. Right now, what we're going to do is go into a little bit of Dharma discussion. I was telling Jeremy that a lot of people that know me might find this odd, but I actually did a day of mindfulness, about 6 to 7 hours of silence for the whole day, and a lot of people wonder how I did that.
It is a challenge, especially if you've never been on it before.
But the one thing that and I was looking, I was, still in my recovery at that time. And, I think, every day is, but the one thing that I found that day, you know, as later on, I realized, the importance of the silence itself. But I mainly found one thing, immediately that day, and that was in the talks when they had the Dharma talk, the question and answer, and what it was it was somebody else's question actually. They were talking about they go to all these seminars, do these days of silence. And that they're fine that day and like a few days after that, but then they say he said it kind of wears off. And the person leading the Dharma talk said, I do fine when I go out to restaurants for eating, but I got to learn how to cook at home.
Yes, that's a good way to do it, or explain it. Yeah, exactly.
Now, how would you define Dharma?
Wow, that's a big one. In the broadest sense, Dharma can be said to encompass literally everything, not just teachings and thoughts, but everything. Everything we can see, taste, smell, touch. In the biggest sense, that's the general definition of Dharma. Dharma also, at least from the Buddhist side, is there's three jewels in Buddhism. There's Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. And, of course, I think a lot of people are at least somewhat familiar with the Buddha. Well, Dharma, generally speaking, after that larger sense, is the teachings of the Buddha. Okay, it'd be like saying the Scripture or maybe the New Testament for Jesus. It's the things that came out of the Buddha's mouth and his teachings. Not necessarily always words. It could even be his silence. And he taught many ways with words and without words. That's probably, to me, the two most, I would just say, well-known definitions of Dharma. I mean, there's a lot of different, I'm sure some other people could bring up different ideas, and there's the idea of Dharma that came out of Hinduism as well, because Buddhism actually came out of Hinduism as well, because the Buddha originally was an Indian prince, and Alan Watts used to say that Buddhism was Hinduism stripped for export, which I always liked. But that's probably the way I would say Dharma. The two definitions I think of.
Yeah, that's actually when I created this show and I told people about people thought I was going to have like guests like you or natural foods, but attempting to explain to them that the definition of holistics is looking at something as a whole, and so that's everything.
Yeah, like the original definition of Dharma I gave. It's literally everything.
And you had something you prepared, for Dharma or something, or a little bit to go into it.
Well, I know one thing. You brought up a very interesting point about practice and about how if you go into practice, it's really easy, and you even get I think I've heard it's something called like a practice high. It's wonderful to go on retreat. And we have, a class every Sangha meeting. Sangha is just another word for community. It's like saying church, maybe. And we have meetings once a week for a little over an hour. You also have, weekend retreats and week-long retreats. And, I mean, people have year-long or years-long retreats. But like you said, you have to learn how to bring that. That's kind of like where you go into the gym and you lift your weights to get your muscles stronger. But you don't just do it in the gym just to get your muscles stronger for there. So when you walk out, you can be stronger in everyday life, right? And it's the same thing, even though you can go to a restaurant and it's wonderful and it tastes great, but if you want to eat like that at home, obviously you have to open up a recipe book or take some, cooking lessons. So it's very true in Zen and Buddhism as well. It's very much about the experience. In terms of Dharma, I know. I think originally when we had talked on the phone before the interview, one of the questions you had was, how do I come up with a Dharma talk?
Yes.
each week in our class or meeting, we generally like read something from a book or we watch a video or something so that we're all kind of on the same page. We may have a theme. And I'll obviously read that chapter or that book or watch the video, and I'll make some highlights, kind of like an outline almost, and then I'll take and spin it a little bit from my experience and bringing in all the things I've learned over the years, and so I have a basic outline when I give a Dharma talk. But I don't go in with everything written out, total speech, like I'm just going to sit there and read a speech. I generally just have an outline and kind of have it right in front of me. And, we come in, we do our practice for the first 30 minutes. That's how strong practice is. We do it first. We do practice first, and then after that, we have a Dharma talk. And the Dharma talk's usually not very long. It's usually 10, 15, 20 minutes tops. And at the end of the talk, we have a question and answer session, but a lot of it's just, once again, being in the present moment, letting it unfold, almost Zen improv. It really is. I mean, because a lot of it just kind of naturally comes up, and I actually like that. I like having a little bit of structure. So you kind of know, so you're just not totally rambling on, but you have a little bit of leeway too to let the Buddha nature, Christ nature, spirit, whatever you want to call it, work. And
so you'd say that some of your ideas for your thing come from spirit or thing, connection.
And like I said, in Buddhist terms, we call it Buddha nature. The closest thing, like I said, in Western, you could say Christ nature. That's inherent in everyone and everything, not just people, but it's in even the rocks and the trees and the desk and. But mind and where we communicate, that's where it comes out of a conscious individual. And but yes, on one level, that Buddha nature is unity.
Now, you said there's a day of mindfulness coming up?
Yes, we meet every week, but we're actually having our first day of mindfulness. It'll be 6 hours. It's going to be on the last Sunday in February.
Okay.
It's in Arbor Green Community Clubhouse. That's where we would normally meet anyways, which is in the new Tampa area. And anyone's welcome to come, and we'd love to have you. We'd love to have you anytime. We have, like I said, meetings every Sundays. But the Day of Mindfulness is just a little extra special retreat. Like you were saying, it's not just for an hour. You actually come for a few hours, and we have a little small breakfast. And we alternate between silent sitting meditation and walking meditation and back and forth. And then we also have, a meal in silence. Not everything's in silence. I mean, we do have a short Dharma talk and have a round discussion. We're not completely silent in our day of mindfulness, although there are some that are completely silent.
Now, do you have exercises along that? Because when I experienced one, we also did like some different exercises.
I don't have anything specifically. Obviously, I think we will stretch when people get there in the morning, and but that's what we teach: walking meditation, and it's a very valid meditation in of itself. Because the idea is that you don't just have a meditation on the cushion and that's it. Right. The idea is that you take this meditation and mindfulness into your daily life from moment to moment to moment. So that's why we teach chanting, walking, sitting, and everything else. But what walking does, which is nice, it helps break it up, is you're sitting there on the floor or in a chair or whatever, and you get a little stiff. It's nice to get up and walk. And some groups do have some yoga involved. I'll admit I'm not the yoga teacher or master, so the best I can do is stretch and do a little walking meditation.
Now, what would you say are some other things where that you've noticed? I mean, that are personal things for you, where you've noticed you kind of reach that place in that activity. I mean, personally for me, I've been out dancing or whatever, club or whatever. And certain songs come on, and and I'm dancing, and for me, I find that zen, that space, in an activity. And are there any activities, for you, or I don't know, being with your kids, or special moments with your wife where you find that place within yourself, and you're not in your practice, you're just being.
And that's that's the true essence. That's the real Zen. We also say one of the most famous sutras, the Heart Sutra, and in the Heart Sutra it says, "There's nothing to attain. We're already completely Buddha." On one level, we don't even have to practice. And it's that almost not knowing practice that's the best. It's before thinking mind. In fact, almost by the time you go, wow, I just had an amazing experience, all of a sudden you're labeling it and putting words on it. You know what I'm saying? It's like the moment right before you had the thought was like almost true Zen. You were just in it completely. I like one of the ways Alan Watts, I go to him a lot because I like him, he said probably Americans can relate to this best by driving, because we've all started driving at a pretty young age. And it's amazing how you can be driving down the road at 80 miles an hour having a conversation with your wife in the car, and the kids are screaming in the back, and the phone's ringing for your wife and this, that, and the other, and you look up and you realize you haven't even had your eyes really on the road. I mean, that's kind of bad, but it's amazing what we can do in a Zen-like manner. And just naturally, you're just so one with it. You're so used to it. He also compares it to like a good horse rider. You're just so natural with the horse. It just, and like you said, it happens at different times for different people. But that's one of the ways I think a lot of Americans, at least, can get that sense. Oh yeah.
Or a lot of guys when they're watching football.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe so. He's like, yeah, all right, yeah,
Now, I believe our producer said they were going to be able to put the information on the screen about where to go to.
Yeah, we would love to have, like I said, we're a monastery without walls in terms of the national level. We would love to have you in our local group here in Tampa. We don't charge anything. I mean, we take donations, but we don't charge anything for it. It's mainly just because we love what we do and we love teaching. If you can come here, great. If you aren't local to Tampa, if you're somewhere else, Google, Buddhism, Zen, meditation. You can look on our website, the national website. Our website is both on Facebook and if you just Google it, like New Tampa Zen. Five Mountain Zen Order is the national, because there's places all over the country. But it's not just exclusive to us. Some people like Tibetan Buddhism. Some people like Thich Nhat Hanh. I really enjoy his teachings a lot. And sometimes not even Zen. Sometimes it's other types of meditation. Anything that benefits you, makes you a more peaceful, happy person, and gives some love and compassion to your friends, family, in this world is all I would ever ask and suggest anyone,
Yeah, there's something I've started giving notice to on my show, and that's a comedian, Damon Simone, and you can look him up for Comedy for the Cure. What he does is he does comedy, and his shows are dirty. But his money goes to, and they pick one family, one person at a time, people, experiencing, ALS or, different diseases, or, they know, somebody's going to be passing. And if the family is, having trouble with finances, and they do that every Friday night. And this is in Fort Myers.
Okay.
And you can find that on the web. And at the end of the night, after the show, they have music, they have comedy. And at the end of the night, every night, the family gets the money. It doesn't go through any organization.
That's awesome.
They just hand the family the money. And, so I've chosen that as, one of the things I want to support on my show.
That's
and
awesome.
To get people to see him. And I believe everybody has gotten your information. Next week, it's going to be a bit of a surprise. I haven't decided who I want on my show next week. Some stuff going on in the studio. Now, is there anything you wanted to cover before we get out of here?
No, like I said, my only thing is, I have a passion for what I do. We'd love to have people in our local area come check us out. But I just challenge you to do it at home, or try to find another local organization, because anyone can benefit from meditation and mindfulness in their daily lives.
I'd also like to invite anyone out there with any show ideas. If there's something they'd like to see, something they're looking for information about, to contact me at entertainmentrn@gmail.com. As well, if there's any businesses out there who'd like promotion, feel free to contact me. If there's some green businesses, is generally be the things I prefer. I love to get my nails done, pedicures. And if you think that I might like to have you on the show, feel free to contact me as well. That's entertainmentrn@gmail.com.
And I really appreciate you having me on the show.
Oh, I'd like to have you back every now and then.
Sure, exactly. Every now and then, exactly. I'd love to come back. That'd be great.
And let's see. We got how much time left? 3 minutes? Okay. What is the most profound thing you have learned in your life?
I can give you a real Zen answer. How about that? No, seriously, like I said, I love to yap. I'm just a human being, and like I said, I go back to Alan Watts a lot, and he says the same thing. We as human beings love to talk. But the Buddha, many times when he was asked about, these wild metaphysical questions and philosophical thoughts, often would just sit in silence. And it's, I think, partly because you can go down the rabbit hole of, the mind can create anything, just turn on the internet, start going down the rabbit hole there. But I think what meditation and mindfulness does is it brings us truly back right here, right now. Heaven and hell are only states of mind.
Yeah, personally myself, I believe we can have those states every day.
Oh, yeah.
And arguments with somebody, and we forget to, we have those blinders on, so to speak, and we only see our stuff. There's a person currently that we go back and forth with with some arguments, and I've been trying to straighten things out, but I also have to remember to be patient. And, continue to work on my stuff, take a look at it from their point of view.
Well, one of my favorite things from A Course in Miracles, actually, is, would you rather be right or happy? I mean, if you really meditate on that, so many times you could be right. Damn it, I'm right, But a lot of times, it doesn't mean you're just like some spiritual doormat, but a lot of times you can let a lot of that go. And would I rather be right or happy? And I used to have someone that would say that they'd rather be both. But, of course, we'd like to be right and happy all the time.
Is that your wife?
Oh, no names shall be mentioned. I just got there. I was in the doghouse. I'll be sleeping on the couch tonight. No, I'm just kidding. But, no, it's true, though. It really is. And it's like that really made a change in my life as well. Would you rather be right or happy?
I was reading something else, and, of course, on Facebook, and somebody was going to the lines, it's not to find out who is right, but what is right. And, I think that's, communication, and, I try to look at, I look at myself now as, I'm a pot. But, I'm going to call out a kettle once in a while.
Yeah, there's definitely a time, without a doubt, don't get me wrong, that we need to speak out for things. And Zen, once again, isn't about all peace and happiness, man. Yeah, that's the focus, is compassion and love and peace. But there's definitely times where anger is appropriate.
And we got 1 minute. Again, I'd like to say all shows, we are proudly brought to you by Talkwad Network. Please check out other shows with the Talkwad Network at www.talkwad.com. And I think we're about to go to Dean Martin here in about 8 seconds here. Goodbye, everybody. And
thank you very much, everyone.
Be sure and tune in next week. And hopefully our website will be fixed and it'll say Mondays.
Oh, so we just travel back in time, huh?
Welcome to my world. you come on in. Miracles, I guess, still happen now and then.
What was that, you might ask? I'll tell you what that was. That was another fine show from TalkSlamRadio.com.